So number one thing I mastered in order to earn 10 million in my 20s was I mastered the skill of digital closing. I built a strong team around me. And how do you build a team is by what's called delegation. A lot of you guys get too attached to people because of the heart part of it, the human element. And in business, you got to get rid of that and you got to learn business is business. Numbers are numbers, and you have to base all your business decisions on productivity and outcome. When you build a team right, whether you're there or not, they're doing what you do. And when that happens, the company moves forward with or without you. And you got to ask yourself these two questions. How can this impact my personal life? And how can this impact my business life? 90% of your business succeeding or not succeeding of that and doing that is going to come from your mind development. So number one thing I mastered in order to earn 10 million in my 20s was I mastered the skill of digital closing. Number two, I built a strong team around me. And that's one of the things that I mastered was how to build a team. And how do you build a team is by what's called delegation. Number one, you have to master that task or process, and then you have to delegate to somebody else. Now, how do you do that? It's something called inspect versus expect. So this is the biggest mistake every executive, every manager, every supervisor makes is they go, okay, employee, we need to do X, Y, and Z today. Employee nods their head, yes, which makes the manager, supervisor, executive, whoever say, oh, they got it. At the end of the day or the end of the week, you check in with them on the task. It's not done right or at all. The reason why is you've expected them to do it based on your information you distributed to them, but you made a mistake. You need to inspect what they're doing throughout the day. You need to have a check-in call, a check-in Zoom, a check-in moment with them to see, one, are they doing it right and are they doing it on time? Now, before you let anybody go, meaning you give a task, you always make sure they recite it back to you what they're clear on. Before they leave or before they hang up on the Zoom or whatever they're doing, always make sure whatever you've instructed them to do, they say it back to you with ownership. That way you know that they're going to get the task done. Okay? Now, when you inspect, you're expecting what they've already committed to. See, this is leadership, guys. I had to learn this from my mentors. Most people, they make it to a supervisor and then they get fired. Or they make it to a manager, they get fired. Or maybe an executive gets brought into a company and they don't know how to mobilize a group of people. It's inspect versus expect, guys. Or expect and inspect, the whole thing. It's such a simple thing to do, and it's such a simple thing not to do. I always, no matter where I go, I can get every single team to produce, even if they're a bunch of deadbeats. One, if they're deadbeats, I'm going to find out on the way that I inspect and expect, and I'm going to have to remove them and find other people. A lot of you guys get too attached to people because of the heart part of it, the human element. And in business, you got to get rid of that and you got to learn business is business. Numbers are numbers, and you have to base all your business decisions on productivity and outcome. Okay? It's the big one. I just taught you a secret how to build a team and how to build a team, because here's what you got to do. When you build a team right, whether you're there or not, they're doing what you do. And when that happens, the company moves forward with or without you. I'm just telling you right there, if you can just get what I just taught you, you'll have a success. You'll take your company from small to medium to large to huge. Because then when you start gathering supervisors and managers, they're all doing the same thing because they came from the ground up. If you ever sell the company's sold with a philosophy, a management philosophy. It still grows with or without you. So that's a big one. Learn not to be influenced by material items. That's a big one, especially guys. A lot of guys, when they start making a little bit of money, they want to go out and get designer clothes. And, let's face it, let me call a spade a spade. You guys start throwing cash at women, trying to become the man and think the woman's going to give you a title in the street, in the club, in the restaurant. Listen, that woman will chew you up and spit you out faster than you thought possible because you thought she loved you. You went out there and spent a bunch of money on her, and you thought she respected you. It just satisfies your ego. And then when you realize she doesn't really love you, she leaves to the next guy with all your money, meaning purses, shoes. Just keep your money, guys, until you have a wife. You know what I'm saying? You don't need to try to impress a chick. And girls, you don't need to try to impress a guy with your boobs sticking out, your ass sticking out. Don't lose your dignity over trying to get some attention. You just got to focus on becoming you. You got to focus on loving yourself. You got to do the little things in life that makes you attracting the right person that you want to be around, business or personal. So learn not to be influenced by material items. Now, I didn't have my first brand new car was like 14 years, or I think it was like 12 years after I first started my business, even though I could have afforded it on year 2. The reason why I didn't get the car is I wanted more advertising. Like my first car was like an AMG S-Class, big boy, right? And I was freaking out. I leased it. They wanted $16,000 down because it was my first car ever, right? They're like, oh, this is your first brand new car, and here it's $150,000. I'm like, yeah, I was scared. Wired 16 grand. It was like $2,000 a month, 3-year lease. I was freaking out. Like, oh my gosh, do you know how much advertising I could buy with this? And Jim Rohn said to me, this is Jim Rohn. He said, son, it's okay. You've earned it. It's not too early. It's right on schedule. You could have done it a couple years ago. So enjoy it. When you're driving that car, you'll make $10,000 for that $2,000 you are paying to that car note. So don't be influenced by material items. All right, prioritize daily personal development with actionable goals and deadlines. Let me read that to you again. Prioritize daily personal development, write this down, with actionable goals and deadlines. In the mornings, I do personal development. I do an hour every single day, no matter what. If you brush your teeth, and I know you're laughing, going, of course I do. You know what happens if you don't. Your teeth are going to rot out. So if you know this, then why would you not brush your teeth every day? Of course you do. The same thing goes for your mind. If you're not going to do personal development, you're not going to stay the same. All right, the next one, guys, is write this down now. Prioritizing daily personal development with actionable goals and deadlines. One more time, prioritizing daily personal development and actionable goals and deadlines. So every single day, I do 30 minutes to an hour of personal development. And what you want to do is you want to read 1 chapter a day, 1 chapter. Now, why do you not want to do 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters? Because we're not looking to how fast we can read through the book. What we're looking for is absorbing the knowledge and becoming the information, because we're looking to change over a period of time. Jim Rohn says, write this down, you go through a change every 90 days based on doing the personal development. So if you do every single day, in 3 months, you're going to have a difference of how you talk, walk, negotiate, everything to do with communication. But you got to make sure you're doing this every day. So what you want to do, and whether it's an audio book, a book, Kindle, whatever the deal is, an iPad, you want to make sure that you highlight and take notes. When you get done, now if the chapter's really short, do 2 chapters of personal development. If it's long, do 1 chapter. But what you need to do is you need to go back and read your highlights and notes. And you got to ask yourself these 2 questions. How can this impact my personal life, and how can this impact my business life? And you got to ponder that and utilize that information throughout the day. This is what you need to be doing with your personal development every single day. You got to have this time with yourself. Guys, 90% of your success is going to happen from your personal development. Let me repeat that. 90% of your business succeeding or not succeeding, or you in a career, or you in a profession, succeeding of that and doing that is going to come from your mind development. The next thing is in personal development is you become who you hang around. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit, but the bottom line with who you become who you hang around, sometimes this is horrible to say this. Sometimes you got to fire your family. You're going, oh no, I love my family. But listen, if your family's broke and not working on their brain, every word that comes out of their mouth is going to go to your subconscious brain. You guys got to get this down. You guys got to protect your brain. Jim Rohn says, I don't allow everybody around me. It's not that he's conceited. It's not that he's better than anybody. It's he's protecting his mind. And you got to get this down, because if you have what's called the dog pound philosophy, where you're just born in a group of big family members and you just got to hang around, they're all living their own lives during the day, right? And you come together every week, every 2 weeks, every once a month, holidays, whatever it is, and they're going to spew their beliefs on you. And you don't realize it. But little do you know, after a year or two, if they have a refrigerator in their front yard, guess what you're going to have in your front yard? A refrigerator. If they got cars on blocks in the front yard, you're going to have cars on blocks in the front yard. If they are focused on a Ferrari, you're going to focus on a Ferrari. If they only eat prime steak, you're only going to eat prime steak. If they eat shitty food, then it's normal for you to eat shitty food. Law of association's a law, folks. And as hard as it is for people to understand this law, it's like the law of flight is thrust and lift. The law of association determines everything in your life. That's why you've got to re-engineer your brain. Because this is what Jim Rohn taught me. For my first 18 years, my family raised me. Put everything they knew that they learned from their parents in my brain. Now, they love me. My mom loved me. I knew my mom loved me. My mom loved me so much I could feel it. But the poor woman was not financially literate. She had to go sweep the floor in the church. She had to cry. She didn't know how to make money. And her belief was join a union, which is ridiculous, right? Go out and try to get a job with benefits. Why don't you go get a business to give you profits to get whatever you want? But it's the belief that's handed down to people. And sooner or later, you're either going to accept it and settle, become one of them, which maybe you already have, which is easy to, you can always wake up from that and protect your mind and change, or you're just going to realize, put the brakes on, change now. I moved from Seattle, Washington to Houston, Texas. My whole family laughed at me. You're crazy. What are you doing? Because my family was like, even though I didn't have a father figure in my life, I had a grandfather that was amazing. I didn't have the man in my life, right? The guy that created me. So I had to go to other men to get the alpha energy, right? But I had a big aunts and uncles and all the family gatherings and stuff like that. When I made a decision to move cross country, I was scared, but it changed my life. Do you realize I've never gone home? It's been over 20 years. I get on the phone with them. I fly back to Seattle maybe once every 2-3 years. It's the same nonsense, but I don't tell them it's nonsense. I hug them and look them in their eyes and say, I love you, but I know it's not the information that I am going to receive. You got to be strong. You got to create from you forward. Understand, the people that raised you loved you, did the best they could, but you got to change that. I became the first 6-figure earner. I became the first millionaire. I became the first decamillionaire, which is over 10 mil. And it's gone way beyond that. But if I would have listened to the people around me, I'd be making $50,000 a year right now with a disposable house and disposable cars with credit card debt up to my ass. Yelling and screaming at my wife that I probably had 2 kids. The kids are hearing screaming and yelling. I didn't want any part of that. So you become who you hang around, and it basically is the law of association. So personal development, what it does for you, I'm digging into this and taking longer than I should, but what personal development is like a Navy SEAL for war, because life is not going to be good all the time. Matter of fact, it's bad more than it is good. How many wars we'll talk about over the next year I had to go through to get to the top? You see me in this beautiful, look at this background. You think I'm just sitting here with money rolling out of my ass? I am now, but let me tell you something. For years, I was sweating cash. Every dollar going back into advertising. Things I just had to focus, and advertising wouldn't work. Sitting at night with my lights off, scared, worried. I just kept going, because what personal development does, it prepares your mind to focus on what you need to do, not what you can't do. And I'll tell you this one thing that really helped me. Jim Rohn says it's all about every day what personal development gears you for. The birthdays, the deaths, the wins, the losses, and everything. Now I'm going to tell you a story. My mom, when she was alive, my mom's not alive right now. She died young. She called me one day. She said, hey, I have breast cancer. Now, the average Joe is going to shut down. I can't work anymore. I'm scared my mom's going to die. And it's a fearful thing, right? It's horrible. No, I don't want anyone's mom or girlfriend, wife, anyone to go through it. But the average Joe that's never done personal development will fall down. I flew to Seattle. Get this. I flew to Seattle. I said, Mom, I love you. I'm going to be in a rental car downstairs making phone calls, digital closing. See? So what I would do is I'd sit down in that car with the car going, right? It's raining up there. I had the heat going. I had my laptop on the dash, my headset, call closing deals. And about every 2 to 3 hours, I'd go upstairs and spend an hour with my mom and tell her I love her. Hold her hand. Cry with her. Mom, I'll be back. Go right back downstairs, call, closing deals. I had to hold my emotions back when I'm sitting on the phone. I had to have conviction. I had to have strength. I had to have certainty on the phone when I was down there. Personal development gave me that. I went long on that one because you got to get it. Life will deal life to you. And you can't just use personal development on your wins. You got to use personal developments on the breakups, the business windfalls, the sicknesses, the deaths, all the things.